and welcome to Praeternatural Mysteries with your host, Ivotres Littles and Dr. Lovey. We will take a closer look into the paranormal, supernatural, and the unexplained. But before we get into that, how are you doing, Dr. Lovey?
Wonderful. How are you doing today?
I'm doing okay. I'm doing okay. a little tired, but I'm doing it.
I'm always exploring and learning.
Yeah. Today we will be talking about Vengeful Ghost. Have you ever experienced any vengeful ghosts? Well, first of all, let's talk about what is a vengeful ghost. A ghost that comes back and just not only haunts you, but does some damage in some form.
A specific type of ghost is known as the purposeful ghost. And these are spirits that have a specific reason for returning from the grave. The reason for returning, a search of justice, a need to relay a message, checking in on relatives. And a subset of purposeful ghosts are also known as vengeful ghosts. And these are the ones that are exceptionally dangerous.
Yes, and I found a lot of information on that because when I first said it, like vengeful ghost, it was just a topic, but then it turns out it's a whole thing about it out there.
A lot of them.
Yeah. Have you experienced or know someone who experienced a vengeful ghost experience situation?
I personally have not experienced a vengeful ghost. I do know someone who had a vengeful ghost experience with a female ghost in Japan in the 1970s. But she was actually known to have been murdered at that hotel in the early 1960s. And she was incredibly angry and she wanted into the hotel room where they were staying. I have read tons and tons of research papers, tons and tons of personal experiences.
About that ghost, did it really wanted in the hotel room? What was it trying to do to get into the hotel room?
Slamming on the door.
Oof.
She did come through the door eventually, and then she disappeared. So
the door broke open, they said?
No, she came through the door.
Oh, came through the door.
I don't know why she wasn't. Now, it makes you wonder, why couldn't she come through the door originally?
Yes.
But she was pounding and pounding for about half an hour, woke up the two occupants of the room, and on her third try, she actually came through the door in her white kimono robe and came like floating towards the bed and then disappeared.
That's interesting because it's like, well, why didn't she come through the door? Maybe she wanted to leave a mark. I mean, maybe she knew she could come through the door.
Stories of ghosts usually who start by just knocking on your outside door. Maybe you hear scratches at your window. There are a lot of stories of things starting slow and then escalating.
I think I would have escalated right on out. Once that happens, with banging on the door. Like, how long was she doing that till she came in? Did they say?
It was from 3 a.m. to about 3:30.
It's always the 3 a.m.
The magic hour where the veil is the thinnest. I have no idea. There are a lot of speculations as to why that happens. And there are specific rays that hit from the sun to the earth during the daytime. And when parts of the earth are in shade away from the sun, there are different electromagnetic fields that occur and rays that are not penetrating because they're hitting the earth on the light side. So there's speculation that may actually have something to do with it. But again, it's all physics and theory, and we're trying to figure it out.
That's a lot of figuring out. So back to the vengeful ghost. When I hear this stuff, I scare myself. I'm hosting a show that scares me. It's the most hilarious thing I've ever known. Yeah, I have my own fears to face, but
it's good to challenge ourselves this way, though.
Yeah.
Fears.
So when I looked up vengeful ghost, there's a lot of ghosts out there, a lot of folklore, mythology. It seemed like every continent has their own version of a vengeful ghost, someone who died horribly, or a ritual wasn't performed right. And even in that when that happens, the spirit was not able to lay to rest, and it just roams, wherever they're from, or even haunts a family, specific family. And not only does it just walk around, it actually does things, beat on walls, terrorize, cause death and destruction. There's a lot of things like that.
It can
And
cause illness, definitely.
yeah, there's legendary creatures, especially around Japan. I think Japan and China, or in Africa, or the three most that I have read that have the most vengeful ghosts or hauntings, legends and folklores and mythology. Have you noticed that too, or that's just me?
The Asian cultures have that very strict belief on karma and things being justified. So, and then also there's a great deal of ceremony involved in their burial.
Yeah.
So I could see how that would come up over and over in those societies.
Yeah, you don't really hear too much of vengeful ghosts here in the States. However, if you really get specific, there's a certain bridge in a certain place where you drive and a car is following you, and then once you get off the bridge, it's no longer following you. Then you have like the Lizzie Borden house, but they're not really vengeful. They're just hauntings, I think. Just maybe if you see something, maybe if you don't. Someone died terribly, but the victims don't come after you. It's just kind of there.
Right.
I think the other one of the haunted places that I would like to visit is the Gettysburg, where that was the most bloodiest war on American soil.
A lot of activity on those battlefields, without question.
Yeah. So, but you never hear about any of those ghosts attacking anyone, or someone was just in the area. I don't know. I haven't. Have you heard anything in the States of vengeful ghosts?
Legal cases in the United States where a ghost is cited as giving evidence against its murderer, and the man was prosecuted successfully. So in a courtroom of law in the United States, it was accepted that a ghost pointed her finger straight at her husband and said, "He's the one that killed me." And that case, let's find that one.
If they could see my face,
the
I'm like, wait, what?
The Greenbriar Ghost of 1897 was a court case where the ghost gave testimony to her mother, and the mother then brought evidence to the townsfolk. Her name was Zona Hester Shue, and apparently her husband snapped her neck and claimed that it was natural causes. And Zona visited her mother several nights after her death, saying that her husband had killed her, had snapped her neck, and to exhume her body, which the mother then convinced the townfolk to do, and they found evidence that she had been murdered. And during that court case, that mother's testimony that Zona had come and visited her was given and was enough to convict him. There's also another case in U.S. history, Stramvovsky versus Ackley in 1995, which the owner had previously advertised to the public that the house had been haunted. And the court decided that as a matter of law, the house is haunted. So that is in the court books. Yep. It's
slap me around and call me Susie.
Now, there are a ton of other legal cases where people claim, let's just say, the devil made me do it.
Mm-hmm.
Demon possession, ghost spirits were whispering to me, something else took over my body and caused me to do harm to other people. So there are murderers who claim that they killed and then have blackouts and don't remember killing people. That would be like a demonic possession, or in some cases, it doesn't seem so demonic. It seems like a ghost has taken them over. Certainly the Warrens believed that occurred. So we would cite the movie like The Devil Made Me Do It. So in the 1980s, a little boy was demon possessed. He was an 11-year-old boy.
Mm-hmm.
And during one of the exorcisms, the boyfriend of the sister said, jump into me, take on me if you're going to pick on a little boy. And the demons did exactly that. And he went on to commit a murder. And the Warrens fully believed that that was because of demonic possession.
But see, when I hear stuff like that, do you think it's a fine line of someone being possessed or someone actually consciously know they committed some kind of murder? Because I mean, anyone could say a demon possessed me, but are we talking as a religious standpoint? Because then if you grew up in the church, like I did when I was young, it's just like, oh, the devil is taking over you, it's making you do things.
Right.
So when you're taught that, and then as an adult, it doesn't make sense. But I guess some people can't um, decipher what is what anymore at that point. If maybe there's a mental problem or injury or something. But to me, hearing it, I guess being the devil's advocate, if someone said I'm possessed, the devil made me do it, I'm like, well, it's hard to believe that some kind of spirit could get into your body to make you do things. I've been very angry. You want to go over there and knock them out. But as I'm knocking them out, I don't see myself saying, oh, the devil made me do it. I mean, it just seems kind of, you're not taking the full responsibility. Like, do you see like a fine line between that?
Certainly, the courts have judged that anyone can claim that, and therefore there's no evidence given. But if we take background history into, for example, say a couple are loving and they've been together for 4 years, and all of a sudden the man starts blacking out or starts behaving completely different. We might say perhaps he has a brain tumor. We might say maybe he has a neurological disease. Some people, devout Catholics, might say he is possessed or being imposed upon by a spirit. Now, if through a history pattern, his beloved notices that he looks different, his face changes, his friends are like, that is not him. His wife swears those are not his eyes. Those eyes go completely black. I don't know why that happens. And then he comes to eventually. Those would be historical precursors showing that that could possibly be a possession. Now, whether that's a demonic possession or a spirit possession, or whether that's a mental illness, all of that's certainly up for debate. We don't have all the answers.
So I'm assuming they would, use scientific research on the victim or the person that believes this way. And once they do all the testing and like, nah, they really committed these crimes because they wanted to.
I think once the crime is committed, per se, that this individual, this theoretical individual that we've created, this man goes out and murders, it's still a question of free will. He chose to go do so. He is therefore a murderer and will be prosecuted to the full extent of the law.
It's just strange.
But let's put it this way. There are a ton of theories that say, where does mental illness come from? Now, people who have had demonic infestation or have had spirit infestation experience things whispering in their heads. They experience thoughts that they feel aren't their own. They have personality changes. Some people theorize that perhaps mental illness can be affected by spirits, by the energy left in the ether, I suppose.
So is that saying as vengeful ghosts would possess these people because they're more vulnerable to make them do things?
I'm not sure what would cause the vulnerability. Like, some people would say if you're super positive, you're not vulnerable at all. And some people would say if you're a very negative person, perhaps you're open to more negativity in your life. I'm not sure. I mean, to what extent, where do thoughts come from?
Yeah.
Who's to say that that thought originated in our head or from a cartoon that we watched when we were 5 years old, or I just happened to walk by a dead grandma that was like singing in the rain, and that just popped into my head. Like, no one knows these things. If ghosts are not okay, just to go on this, if ghosts are not real, we as humans have the ability to psychosomatically injure ourselves through fear. So yes, we still get affected. If ghosts are real, they are energy, and we are bioelectric machines that can still be affected. So, yes, the answer is yes. Ghosts can influence, and there are some that have shown that they can hurt people.
It just makes it all it's like it's hard to believe, but then when you see evidence, like when you see the proof, like scientific in documents and things like that, it's like, well, what makes these people prone to these kind of ghosts versus someone that isn't?
I'll cite
Like,
you one other one, historically speaking, and this
mm,
one was recorded by multiple witnesses. Al Capone, when he was in jail,
oh
was
yeah.
haunted nightly by a creature that he screamed out was called Jimmy. So much to the point that he hired a medium named Alice Britt to find what Jimmy wanted, and she was never able successfully to do so. He was terrorized for years and years and years by this vengeful ghost, and he fully believed that it was someone that he had killed, but he didn't know what they wanted from him. So here he is, a very violent man, a very hardened man, used to violence, and yet somehow one spirit got through to him every single night and kept at him.
Hmm. I've heard that he was being haunted, but I didn't hear of it that extent. That's it's just so creepy. It's like I'm trying to like not creep myself out. But at the same time, it's so fascinating that there are there are things out there that we're trying to understand and bring logic into it, but sometimes I think you just can't do that. It just happens. But then you wonder, is these people crazy? Like you're in between of all of that. Another thing that I was looking up on that is exorcisms and religious ceremonies and customs. Some
Mm-hmm.
of them have to be performed when someone dies, especially if they died a violent death. If not, they will come back and, you know, tear up the crops, kill the animals, kill the people around them, bring disease. um, how much do you believe in that? Like, what scientific research have you came across, if any, of that actually happening? Because a lot of these are like folklores and mythology, but nothing so recent now. That's what I'm saying.
I mean, if you look at the Jewish custom of sitting with the body for several days, that's very specifically to ensure that everything is at peace. I believe I would like to research that more and learn more. I believe that the Korean custom is to also sit with the body for 3 days. Once upon a time in America, we used to have our parlors, and the bodies would sit, during the viewing while we would say goodbye. Um, let's put it this way: if a person throughout their entire life believes that they must be buried in a certain way in order to be at peace, and they don't get buried that way, i.e., grandma didn't get to wear her blue dress, she gonna be really upset if we didn't put her in a blue dress. And I know my grandma wanted to be in her blue dress. So is it possible that that spirit will come back and be a little angry? It's completely possible. I mean, our character is supposed to live on, and our emotions and our experiences live on afterwards, according to some theories, and it's quite possible that that person would feel that they had been.
Mm-hmm.
Now, here's the worst part: like when a ghost comes back, i.e., if that person has died violently, a woman has been murdered on the streets, and she comes back, there are stories, ghosts that were beheaded in Britain, 1600s, 1700s, come back, and they're still incredibly upset trying to find the person that killed them. But they're still directing their anger at people that are living who are so far beyond the generations where they can even get justice.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah, I was reading about that too, and I just felt like, well, they would never get justice
that's
because the people that they're trying to um, scare, attack, or can have them confess are long dead. They're long gone,
right.
and they've been haunting the same place for hundreds of years. That
Now,
has to just be.
there are
Uh,
tales of people who have been murdered And generations later, other people who have moved into that house eventually discover the whole story of the ghost, and that seems to put that ghost at rest. Like just being able to tell their life story, or just being able to know that someone else knows that they were harmed and murdered, seems to be another way of allowing peace.
Yeah, I some examples of the vengeful ghost spirits that lurking in different parts of the world. I have a list here. Now I'm not going to say the entire list because we don't have all day. Some of the names are very difficult because I mean they're from Africa, ancient Rome, ancient Greece, UK. I mean Jewish, China, Vietnam, Pakistan, Japan. I mean, some of the names of these ghosts are almost impossible because obviously I don't speak that language. But there's some that actually stood out.
Yeah.
So, one from Africa. Maybe you've heard of these, but her name is Madame Koi Koi.
Ooh.
I hope I'm saying this. Koikoi. Koi. Sounds about right. Is a ghost of a female school teacher in Africa, and also it's an urban legend, who haunts boarding schools after some students caused her death. So, like you just said, they haunt a generation that has nothing to do with them, and they're just
all those kids deserve it. Every one of them. Generations later, they're still up to no good.
But then we would have to research, well, what did they do? You know what I'm saying? To cause her death.
Mm-hmm.
But she's still lurking. I mean, that's one of them. Another one is in the United Kingdom called the Green Lady, a restless female spirit said to haunt certain locations in Scotland. And I think it's Crathy's Castle. Castle. Oh my God. Castle. Not Castle. All these castles. I mean, she's just haunting them because she was murdered in a green dress, and some of the servants stuffed her in the chimney, and you can hear her footsteps as she walks in sadness. That is terrible.
That is. It's sad.
That is so sad. It's like, and she's just still walking. She's still there.
There are so many stories of loved ones coming back, and they appear in the outfit that they died in, or they appear in the outfit they were buried in. There is one tale of a grandpa coming back, and he was aged 89 when he died, but when he came back, he was back in World War II uniform as a young man, just saying goodbye. But that she's still wearing her green dress is very normal. They seem to appear in what they either passed in or what they were buried in.
China and Vietnam, for some reason, they're together on this list, this part of the list. Mogwai, a vengeful ghost or demon in Chinese mythology. The only Mogwai I knew was in the movie Gremlins. So vengeful ghost, a demon. So it can be like the demon, like a demon of a Mogwai. Gizmo. I mean, Mogwai. I mean, I was like, I don't know. That could be a mistypo here.
We'll look it up. I'm sure they got the name from somewhere.
Yeah. Well, I'm reading from also other sources, and Wikipedia. So how much of it's truth, we don't know. One more, because some of these names I cannot say, and I do not want to butcher them because I don't want to make anyone angry, but I would probably put the list and link and stuff like that so other people can look. But Japan, I think it's Onryo. Oh my goodness. It's Onryo. Now anything Japan is terrifying when it comes to stuff like this. It's a generic Japanese folklore ghost, Yuri, who comes back from purgatory for a wrong death during their lifetime. So I think this is just anyone who comes back. It's not a specific name for them. It's just if you have a vengeful death, I mean, if you die a terrible death, you coming back. And I think the movie, The Grudge,
Love
is
it.
is a really
Oh
good,
my
a vengeful ghost. I mean, that came out in 2004, and it was terrifying.
yes. Yep.
Theater was packed. Takashi Shimizu.
Ooh.
Yeah, he also did The Howling Village that recently just came out
Oh.
through Dread Central.
Ooh, I want to see that.
But yeah, but Sam Raimi was one of the producers, and Takashi, he did the original, and then he came to America and called it The Grudge. So he brought it here and he directed that. It was written by someone else, but he directed it. So that movie was terrifying, and towards the end you kind of see exactly how that ghost got the way she was, the noises she make, the movements, just terrifying.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah, yeah.
There was a Halloween haunt where you were walking up and you realize that's the house you're about to walk into.
Oof.
And it was terrifying because I'm like, I know I don't want to go in that house. I do not want to go in that house. Yeah.
See, I wouldn't have went into that house.
They recreated it. It was great.
I could barely go into the not scary farmhouses, so anything haunting like that. But yeah, that movie explained that noise she was making. It was because she was choked so badly. She was trying to get air, and that was the sound she was making.
Now,
Oof.
that's a very good point because there are occurrences, and there's one thing I can think of right now where a woman moved into a little grandma mother-in-law's house on someone else's property, and she would hear like heavy breathing in her ear, and she would hear someone like brush her hair, and the things that she experienced in that house were actually what the victim experienced in her time of death. The gasping for air, the whispering in the ear, being in the shower and feeling someone brush against your hair. And so, in a way, that ghost was vengeful, but wanted so desperately for someone else to know her pain that she shared it with that tenant.
Yeah. Another example of that, of similar what you just said, because you said the whisper in the ear, and it popped in my head. Candyman.
Ooh.
Now, Candyman is another movie of a vengeful ghost, and once you see the movies, the 92 and the recently that just came out, Nia DaCosta's Candyman, people believe is Jordan Peele's Candyman. It is not Jordan Peele. He helped write it, but he is not the running force. I just have to put that out there. It is Nia DaCosta's film. So
It's grossing very well. It's
I
pulling
saw
in the
that
money.
film. You haven't seen it, right?
I have not seen it yet. No.
Oh my God! You're so sensitive. You might bring tissue.
Okay. Okay. I will.
I would say bring some tissue and some water just to like breathe. Like, oh my God! But it's those are example of vengeful ghosts. But when you see those stories, you almost accept those. Like you're kind of like, well, they deserve it. I'm on the ghost side.
Absolutely.
You're actually become the ghost side, even though it's terrible what they're doing. I think the 92 version doesn't really show that much of what Daniel Robitaille, that Candyman, went through. Like, you see what happened to him, but then you follow Helen, of how she's trying to explain what is going on. And then people think she's the killer. Like, so it's kind of the accusation of what he went through, that maybe he, did something to the wealthy daughter. But really he was just painting her, and they fell in love, and stuff like that. So with Daniel Robitaille with her, like he's trying to use her to keep his story alive, but I think it doesn't convey as it did in the new one. So I won't spoil it for you, but in the new Candyman, you understand the Candyman. And I'm going to leave it at that because I'm not going to say any more for those who have not seen it. By the time this video come out, people have probably seen it. You have too. But I don't, I just don't want to spoil it for you.
Overheard, and it says something like, he is the hive. And that made me think like he is just the numerous rage constantly, given to that society, and he's just the hive. And it was such a beautiful way to say that this is just the collective rage of a society.
Exactly.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
injustice.
the new one is powerful. It has a powerful message. Some people, I read posts, oh, I didn't like it, and it's okay. But for those who are like, oh, it was all right, it's like you missed the mark, because it's either you like it or you don't. You can't be in the middle with this film, because that means you didn't understand what it was trying to say. I would suggest seeing it a second time. And before I say this film, is it possible to actually capture a ghost and keep it contained?
From everything that I have studied, the answer would be yes. If a ghost is energy, then yes, it is possible to attach that to something or contain it. We going ghost busting?
You could bust the ghost. I'll watch the monitors.
we don't know how to capture or contain, much less prove or disprove the spontaneous experiences that occur. However, if it is energy, then yes.
The reason I say, because these areas in the world that are suffering from these vengeful ghosts, spirits, whatever they may be, why can't you just get rid of them? Why do they stay? Even after, okay, so what I mean by that, they didn't perform something right, or this person is coming back, but they have the culture, the spirits, the spices, or whatever they use for these ceremonies to get rid of the ghost, but they didn't perform it right, or it didn't happen, and the ghost comes back. Let's just say that. But why can't we find a way to get rid of them? Like, can we send them to the light? Like like poltergeist. Can we talk to them? Why do they still linger even after they have tried to do something about it? What is your thoughts on that?
Some theories are that we are born, or we exist to learn a life lesson or perform a purpose. And if that is the case, then it is quite possible that we still have that purpose or that lesson to learn afterwards. It may not be that we learn that in this physical body. It may be that we still have to do it or stay on this plane. Some other theories exist that some ghosts get so confused, or they still have loved ones here that they're attached to, or things that they're attached to. Like a lot of people are attached to their houses and they stay with their houses. Those are some theories. But what if, like the Candyman, it is a collection of emotions? Every woman that's ever been murdered by her lover, every mother who's had her child murdered, every man who's witnessed his home being burned or his village being overrun. What if they become not like one entity, but like a collection of emotions because of these exact same patterned injustices? That's another theory too.
So they can become their own hive.
That would be another theory, definitely.
The reason I say, because there's one particular film that I absolutely just love. I've seen it multiple times, and I just wanted to point this out because I believe that film really shows how the physical form of a vengeful ghost, and there's multiple of them. Do you have an idea what movie I'm gonna?
No. What is it?
13 Ghost.
Oh, love that one. Oh,
Yeah, that one really shows
oof.
the physical form of being hurt,
Right.
and just, just
Each ghost,
destroyed. Yeah, and some of them even hurt themselves, but just accidents could just be a constant reminder of fate, that they cannot move on.
13 Ghosts, the opening scene, when you just look at him looking out the window at his wife and waving to his family, and the camera slowly pans around the room, and you hear the fire start, and you hear the kids screaming and crying, "Where's mom?" And you hear the heart monitor in the hospital, and then the camera pans into the dead parts of the house where it's burned and charred. And I mean, that was one of the best openings I've ever seen. Also, Matthew Lillard, is that his name? One of the best performances I've ever seen.
Oh,
Amazing. That was amazing. I would love to see an entire movie on that character, where he's so psychic that you can't touch him, and he has, all these visions in his head. It was an amazing character.
I mean, many people want some kind of show with 13 Ghosts, like a series or something. It has, I mean, everybody is screaming for it, but nobody has come forward to even think about it. I think it's so complex that it has to be done right. But the movie, I think, really showed something. And I think it's a really good example of vengeful ghosts, of them physically can harm you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So some of the ghosts here, basically it's a family who suffered, a loss of a loved one. And out of the blue, an uncle, long lost uncle or whatever you want to say, hey, I have a house for you, because the family's also in debt, hospital bills and whatnot. I have a house for you. Come stay in it, and the fortune is yours. So they decide to do it, but the house is made of glass with some weird writings.
By the way, the house is very bizarre.
Yeah, it is.
Symbols on all of the panes of glass.
If I would have walked up to the house like that, I wouldn't have been in it. Like, I was like, nah, it's okay. It's made of glass. It was beautiful, but there was no privacy. Forget that. Not really. Maybe the bathroom. Living with 13 ghosts, I don't think so. So anyway, the uncle has him standing there, but it's booby trapped. The greedy lawyer, got to get the money. So, but he needs the family to be in the house so he could perform this ritual, so he could, open the gates of hell or something. Who knows exactly? But he needed broken heart of a lover, kill himself or throw himself into a machine or whatnot.
The Oculus.
Yeah, in order to complete the ritual. And, I won't say the whole film, but that's pretty much the gist of it. But the ghosts that were in the makeup effects was fantastic.
Yep.
The story behind them, in the brief moment that you encountered them in the film, was unbelievable, but you wanted more. It made you, okay, where did they come from? I mean, we got the firstborn son, which was just sad. Actually look up these stories, but we want to see them live on film. I would love to know the origin, how they become. Oh my goodness. And then,
on the DVD, there's extra background on each of the ghosts.
Yeah.
On some of the DVDs.
But they need a show. I want to see it like that. I don't want to be looking at little snippets. That was
amazing.
Anyway, so they have the torso, the bound woman, the withered lover, the torn prince, the angry princess, the pilgrimess, the great child, and the dire mother. That was just sad. The hammer, the jackal, the juggernaut, which was the most scariest. For a lot of people, were scared of the juggernaut. And then that's it. So I was about to say something else, but that's it. I hope that's 13 of them. No, actually there's 12.
Yep.
The 13th would have been him if he killed himself to save his kids. But anyway, so when it says 13 ghosts, you're like, it's not 13. Yeah, technically not. But yeah, I think out of all of them, the one that got me, that creeped me out, was the torso. No head, no arms. It did have arms. It had arms, with no legs, no head, and the head was in the bag sitting on the side. But the story behind that, see, you shouldn't be gambling. You shouldn't be doing anything. That wouldn't happen to you. But that's terrible. That's why I mentioned, can you capture ghosts? You know how, because if you're able to capture them and then get to see what they have manifested into, I think that's scary. So is any of those ghosts from the 13 Ghosts like really scared you? Or
Who was the one with the cage around their head?
that is the jackal.
That jackal scared me because he was like on meth, like had superhuman speed, and was like constantly clawing and screaming. Like,
Yeah.
I'm like, I can't outrun that. I'm too tired. I'm too old. That one scared me. I'm like,
I'm too old.
I'm not gonna make it. That one was fast. Yeah, the juggernaut's kind of big and lumbering down the hallway. Like, I might have a chance. Okay, it's the spirit light going off.
Oh, see, that's why it's in your house. Oh my goodness, I can't wait.
Fun bit of trivia, movie trivia. The dire mother and that fat baby ghost,
the great child,
the great child, also played a baby in Trick or Treat, where that little Sam creature I love.
Oh,
he also played a baby in that, and he was supposed to be the boy date for the girl that turned into a werewolf. So strangely, that same actor played the same role. Yeah.
Okay. I would see that on Netflix. You know, like a series. We got the first one, second one, third, 13 episodes, you know.
Yeah, that is a great movie. Yeah, there's too many great lines from that movie. Did I say there was a petting zoo downstairs?
There were some points someone did touch him, but he didn't react. So I think he can control it to some extent. But I think if he's overactive, it's just because when he would touch it, he was like electroshock. He was like, "Don't touch me, stop!" And he was like slobbering and spitting. So
the veins were raised. Oh, great portrayal!
I know
he's acting on his part.
And can you believe he was Shaggy and Scooby-Doo?
Yes, I can. He was amazing.
And then Scream. He was So yeah, he's an all-around actor there. You don't see too much of him now. He which I think is kind of like sad. He needs to get. He's maybe by choice. Some actors don't want to keep doing it all the time. I mean, 13 Ghosts is still going strong, and so is Scream. He's probably getting residuals. We don't know. So,
great scary movies. Yeah.
So, Vengeful Ghost, that is our topic of the evening, and I learned so much about this. Basically,
historically, I have one more for you.
Okay, go ahead. Let's go.
There is a case where a ghost has claimed murder, and this is
wait. You said a ghost claimed murder?
She's a spirit, and this is in 1820. The Bell Witch of Tennessee, very famous haunting, killed John Bell Sr. without question. Wow. She told everyone she was going to do it, and she did it, and he died on December 20th, 1820. And she was very gleeful about the entire experience.
Oh, wow.
He did once shoot at her, so she had some reason.
Okay. Another thing about that, I noticed during the times of the early 1900s, 1800s, let me go with this, 1600s to the 1900s, I know a lot more paranormal activity during that time. I've noticed that. What is your speculation on that? Why would you think there's a lot more paranormal activity than it is now?
I'm not sure that that's the case. I'm trying to understand the perception. We have more recording devices now. We have more cameras, cell phones, audio recording. We're capturing more anomalies now and learning what we can explain and what we can't explain. I'm not sure that that's a shared perception, but I would like to know more about why. Now, spiritualism has always occurred historically, usually after wars, immediately, because moms just lost their sons, fathers just lost their sons. They want answers, and they want reassurance that their children are okay. And so that's when spiritualism usually occurs. That's when people start having seances. That's when they go to the fortune tellers, usually after large wars or plagues, for example, pandemics like we're having right now, where we've lost a large amount of people. So historically, that's when it usually peaks. However, right now we do have so many more recording devices, audio and visual, and we're getting some amazing anomaly results. Yeah,
because we do have things we could capture things versus at the time. So we probably have the same experiences from back then, the same amount. It's just that they couldn't capture like we could capture now.
absolutely, absolutely. We're getting better at it in our technology, and we're learning better how to communicate without question. There's always the Ouija board.
Well, that's a whole nother segment.
It seems to work very well.
And I have one, and you won't catch me using it. Maybe we should record ourselves doing that. Nah, I'll be the first to go.
Let's film other people doing it.
Oh, no.
Like, from a little glass cage. We'll be like, oh.
That would be pretty funny. But yes, thank you so much, Dr. Lovey. Today we talked about Vengeful Ghost, and I learned so much around the world that the ghosts out there, they just want to be heard. Basically, that's all it is. And some are heard, but they still seeking revenge because what has happened to them was centuries ago, and they still haven't rest or anything. So, but thank you so much. If you love this video, love hearing us talk about paranormal, supernatural, and the unexplained, please hit the subscribe button, like, and leave a comment. Maybe talk about your experiences and stuff like that. We would love to hear them.
The Ouija board while we watch you. Let us know.
Okay. Yeah, let us know.
Yep.
See, and if something happened, we'll be responsible.
We'll record it for science.
Oh my gosh, that is funny. That should be one of our topics. Like actually devices that people have used to summon things.
We should.
Yeah, but I have a Ouija board. I'll look at it and talk about it, but I won't touch it.
We've got the EMF reader too.
Oh yeah, that's right. I do have that. Well, yes. I don't know. Girl, we'll talk about it. Until next time, Dr. Lovey.
Thank you. Always a pleasure. Thank you. You're amazing.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.